welcome to HITC Sport. Right, this truly is the summer of mental price tags. It's just getting too much, it really is. Let's take a look at every Premier League club and a reportedly mental price tag that has been attached to one of their players. Like 50 million for Longstaff. Arsenal, Matteo Guendouzi, 60 million.
Arsenal slapped 60 million price tag on Guendouzi amid PSG interest.
Now normally I wouldn't have thought PSG would touch Matteo Guendouzi with a 6-foot barge pole, but then again, this is the same club who've agreed to pay Ander Herrera 350 grand a week to sit on the goddamn bench. Honest to Christ, Herrera should be spending the next 3 years of his career kissing his agent's feet. But yeah, there is no way Guendouzi, a 19-year-old midfielder with one average Premier League season under his belt, is anywhere near worth 60 million quid. Aston Villa, John McGinn, 50 million. What has happened to football? Are we really living in an age where clubs are demanding 50 million quid for John McGinn? That's essentially like me charging someone 50 quid for 2 pens and a half-eaten sandwich. Christ above, 50 million for John McGinn. I mean, don't get me wrong, he is a decent player, but last year he was lining out against Motherwell and Partick f***ing Thistle every week, scoring 5 goals all season for f***ing Hibs. And now Villa actually trying to get 50 million quid for this man. Mental, like that is actually mental. Like there was once a time that this was a price tag getting attached to Zinedine Zidane, not John McGinn. Bournemouth, David Brooks, 50 million. I mean, why not? I mean, if Villa are asking 50 million for John McGinn, then why shouldn't Bournemouth ask for the same of David Brooks? I mean, listen, the kid is a good player. He's only 22 and one of Bournemouth's best, but again, 50 million. For that money, you're expecting world-class talent at least. Brighton, Lewis Dunk, 40 million. And now 40 million for Lewis Dunk. A centre-half with just 2 top-flight seasons under his belt and will be turning 28 in November. And let's not forget, spent the final few months of last season playing like a malnourished pigeon. Like, did anyone see his performance against Bournemouth at home? When he wandered around the pitch with all the confidence and authority of a lost child in Tesco's, his performance towards the end of the season were so bad that I'm guessing there were Brighton fans contemplating whether or not to shove a pair of scissors into their eye sockets rather than continue to watch that brand of defending. Well, either that or just put the season ticket in the bin. The danger though is that when Leicester sell Maguire, clubs will know they need a centre back and also that they'll have a big pot of money to spend. So you can't really blame Brighton for chucking a 40 million price tag on Lewis Dunk. But don't forget lads, this would make him the 8th most expensive defender in history of the sport. And that alone just makes me want to shove my face in a bowl full of acid. Burnley, James Tarkowski, 40 million. Again, similar sort of thing. James Tarkowski is a decent enough defender, but the day I'd pay 40 million pounds for his services is the day I start eating my own feet, because clearly that is the first sign of madness. 40 million for a lad with 2 English caps, 1 top half finish, just no, he's a 20 million pound player at best. Chelsea, Kennedy, 30 million. 30 million for Kennedy. I mean, fair play Chelsea, you are chancing your arm here. It's a bit like me ringing up Jessica Alba and offering to take her on a date on the sole condition that she'd have to pay. Now, just like any prospective buyer when they learn of Kennedy's price tag, the phone call would last about as long as a Katie Price marriage. I'm sorry, but if anyone is mental enough to pay 30 million quid for Kennedy, a lad who couldn't get past Christian Atsu in the Newcastle team, and to whom the prospect of end product is clearly a foreign concept, then those people should no longer have any access to a bank account. If anything, charging that much for Kennedy should probably be deemed as a fraudulent offence, because for his 30 million you're expecting not only a good player but for someone who can cross the fucking ball. Crystal Palace, Wilfried Zaha, 100 million. See, this is a tricky one because I think Arsenal are taking the piss with a 40 million pound bid, but apparently Crystal Palace holding out for 100 million, which is just as insane. Listen, I rate Wilfried Zaha and he does belong in a top 6 club, but 100 million pounds would make him the 6th most expensive footballer of all time. It would be the most amount of money a Premier League club has ever paid for one player, and this is a man who's already failed at Manchester United, been overlooked by England, and has never scored more than 10 goals a season. He'd be costing just 16 million pounds less than Kylian Mbappe, and he's never played a Champions League game, although to be fair that wouldn't be an issue at Arsenal. Everton, Richarlison, 100 million. Apparently Everton would charge 100 million quid for Richarlison. Yeah, he's a good player, but he's also a forward who in nearly 80 games of English football has scored less than 20 goals. 100 million for him. Really? Leicester City, Harry Maguire, 90 million. No, just no, I'm sorry. But I refuse to live in a world where Harry Maguire is worth 90 million pounds. Just no. This would make him the most expensive defender that ever lived. He'd be the 6th most expensive footballer of all time, right next to Eden Hazard and Cristiano Ronaldo. 90 million pounds for some chubby northern lad who no doubt spent his youth drinking gravy out of a f***ing trough. Don't get me wrong, I mean the lad is a good defender and deceptively impressive on the ball, although let's be honest, the mere sight of him sprinting looks a bit like a fridge getting pushed down a flight of stairs. If Manchester United pay this fee for a glorified Phil Jones, then somebody at that club needs to be taken away from their positions of power before they go and chuck 10 million quid at a soggy toilet duck. You know when Man City are pulling out, something Declan Rice's dad should have done a long time ago, that this price tag is all kinds of horrendous. Oh yeah, and his name's not even Harry, it's Jacob. Why does every Jacob I know try and pretend that's not their name? It's a good name. Liverpool, Dejan Lovren, 25 million. Apparently Liverpool are holding out for 25 million quid for AC Milan target Dejan Lovren. If they did, they'd be making a profit on a lad they already vastly overpaid for 5 years ago. This man is 30 years old, a 4-choice centre back, and while he's a Champions League winner, he's also prone to forgetting how to use his goddamn feet. Sort of a necessity when you're a professional footballer. Man City, Jack Harrison, 20 million. I mean, this just seems mean. Let's be honest, Jack Harrison has about as much chance of playing for Manchester City as my goddamn scarf. And yet City are demanding that the winger, currently stuffed out on loan at Leeds, be sold for no less than £20 million. He's going to be 23 next season. He scored just 4 goals last season in the Championship and has literally no chance of breaking into the City squad, with pathways to the first team being consistently smothered by a pot of gold every summer. And yet City are expecting someone to pay 20 million quid for him. It's literally like having a pair of mouldy old socks under your bed and then trying to flog them on eBay for 20 quid. Man United, Marcus Rashford, 150 million. He just signed a new contract, but apparently it would now take 150 million to prize Marcus Rashford away from Manchester United. May I just remind you, this is a lad who has scored 45 goals in 170 games for the club, and who spent the second half of last season moping around the pitch with all the enthusiasm of the depressed donkey out of Winnie the Pooh. It seems like this fella just gave up in a season with that penalty in Paris, because ever since then he showed all the enthusiasm of a Catholic nun in a goddamn strip club. Newcastle, Sean Longstaff, 50 million. One of the most ridiculous prices on this list. Now I know Geordies are holding up Sean Longstaff as their potential saviour. It wouldn't be like them to get carried away with local northern talent, now would it? Or maybe I'm thinking of Adam Johnson. But this is the lad who turns 22 in October and has 8 Premier League appearances to his name. 8! It's a transfer fee that would make him the most expensive English player that ever lived. Christ above, make it stop. This time last year he was hours away from getting stuffed out on loan to Portsmouth in League One. He would be walking into a midfield as a replacement for Paul Pogba. At the age of 22, Longstaff's CV reads 2 seasons on loan at Kilmarnock and Blackpool and 8 top flight games. When Pogba was his age, he was starting a Champions League final at one of the biggest clubs on the planet. I mean, I know I give Pogba stick, but replacing a World Cup champion with Sean Longstaff is like trading in your Aston Martin for a broken Hoover. Norwich City, Max Aarons, 15 million. 50 million for Max Aarons, to be honest, seems like a relatively sane transfer fee compared to some of these. I mean, 15 million pounds for a teenage right back, it's actually not bad. Mind you, considering Aaron Wan-Bissaka was no doubt scrubbing toilets down the back of Sellers Park more than a year ago, don't be surprised that Max Aaron suddenly gets touted for a 50 million move to Chelsea next year. Sheffield United, David McGoldrick, 1 million. Now you might think 1 million is not a lot for a striker these days. I'm sorry, but if anyone pays more than a tin of tuna and 3 custard creams for David McGoldrick, then they should have their accountant shot dead on the spot. Sorry lads, I'm literally just using this to vent my frustration that my proud national team has been resigned to resting our Euro 2020 hopes on the shoulders of a 31-year-old David McGoldrick. Someone pass me the f***ing gun. Southampton, Ryan Bertrand, 15 million. So the latest news is that Ryan Bertrand is interested in the likes of Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan, with Southampton hoping to get 15 million pounds for him. Now 15 million for Max Aarons makes sense, considering he has about 15 years ahead of him, but Bertrand turns 30 in 3 weeks. 15 million for an aging left back? Go on and get Kieran Tierney. Tottenham, Harry Kane, 313 million. Let's just think about this for a second. 313 million. Look, Harry Kane is a great player, but chucking more than 300 million quid at his spit-drenched face is quite frankly disgusting. Harry Kane is a great player, but 300 million pounds for anybody, that is 3 times what Conor McGregor has in his goddamn bank account. Although at the rate he blows through money, wouldn't be surprised if in 5 years he was squatting on couches and forced to drink his toilet water.
Please don't tell anyone how I live.
Watford, Dudi Lukabayo, 20 million. Yeah, here's a player who 90% of Watford fans have probably never heard of, and yet could probably flog for about 20 million quid.
Why would 20 million be too much for me? If I see the numbers in football today, I don't think it's too much. There is no limit for me.
I mean, the man has a point. I mean, he shouldn't be worth that after 1 game for Watford and a season for Fortuna Dusseldorf, but I mean, football is mental these days, isn't it? West Ham, Issa Diop, 75 million. 75 million for Issa Diop. Really? He's a good player, but 75 million is the same fee he paid for Virgil van Dijk. Christ above, were the lads in charge of West Ham out in the piss when they dreamt up with that valuation. Wolves, Ruben Neves, 110 million.
Wolves slap 110 million price tag on Neves to ward off suitors.
I mean, there's no better way to tell potential suitors to stop wasting their damn time than by slapping a price tag of over 100 million pounds on a player who was playing championship football 2 years ago. Now, don't be wrong, Neves is not a championship player, far from it. He's actually a brilliant footballer, but 100 million pounds? I mean, Bruno Fernandes is worth half that. Are we really living in a world where Wolves are in a position to demand that much money for one singular player? Christ above, I remember the days when they were forced to sell their star men for 5 million quid. Price tag that nowadays wouldn't even get you one of Danny Drinkwater's f***ing toes. Alright lads, so that was 20 players adding up to 1.6 billion. Billion! With a B! Billion! For 20 players who, guess what, don't have a single league winner's medal between them. Yep, Mark Albrighton has lifted more Premier League titles than all these players combined, and yet they are somehow worth 1.6 billion. You could build 2 Wembley stadiums for that. Oh, lads, just inflation is a goddamn joke. Anyway, that's the end of it, lads. Let me know, do you also think this is madness or not? Do you think John McGinn is worth 50 million quid? If you do, then clearly you belong in a goddamn nut house. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram here, and yeah, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, talk to you in a while.